Just like in English, there are certain verbs in Greek that have irregular comparatives and superlatives. So in English we have big, or good, better, best. Greek has a number of adjectives which are also going to be irregular, and these just have to be memorized. Your best bet is to actually simply be able to remember which adjectives go back to which positive. That is, these are all adjectives you know already, and so you just want to be able to recognize that a particular adjective is in fact the comparative of agathos, and so on. I'm not going to list all of them here. You'll have to go in your textbook and memorize from the textbook, but I want to point out a couple of patterns anyway. So the first that we'll look at is agathos, good. And there are actually three different ways to compare agathos in Greek. The first is simply the simple beltion, beltion. And notice this is a two termination, so we have a masculine, feminine, and a neuter. And this is our better, very generically speaking. Okay, just simply better. Amenon, amenon, another two termination adjective. This is generally better, either braver or stronger, or sometimes even morally better. And kraton, kraton, is, again, another two termination adjective, is stronger, that is, more powerful. And the superlatives will generally go in the same, you sort of have various similar superlatives. So beltistos, notice this is also, it's a three termination first and second declension. All your superlatives are going to be first, second declension. Beltistos, best, generically speaking. Aristos, morally best. So the aristoi were the best people, and kratistos, most powerful. Best in that sense. And if we have irregular for comparison, just like in English, we have comparative for worst or bad. So kakion, kakion is worse, generically speaking. Charon, charon is morally worse, at least in later Greek. And then aton, aton is weaker, worse, in that sense, less. And the superlative kakastos, worst, generically speaking, you just simply want to say something is worst. And karastos, this is morally the worst. Right, so there is no comparative for aton or haton. Brachus. Now here we get some of our some patterns developing here. Brachus, short, shorter. There are two ways to do it. There's no difference in meaning. You have sort of a standard brachouteros, which is first and second, or we have brachion, brachion, a two termination. And this is going to be one of the regular standard patterns for comparison in Greek, especially regular comparison. And the superlative brachoutatos, a perfectly regular superlative. Or for ekthros, hated, hateful, more hateful, ektheon, ektheon, the rho drops out, ekthestos, fairly regular superlative. Remember, two ways to do superlative are generally are tatos and istos. But again, the comparative is this eon, eon, two termination, third declension adjective. Or sweet, hedus, sweeter, hedion, hedion, two termination, third declension. Hedistos, there's our istos, superlative. And the thing to keep in mind with these comparatives, the superlatives are easy enough to decline, is that irregular comparatives are going to decline like sophron. Remember sophron, sophron, with on as the stem, so better, beltion, beltionos, beltioni, and so on. Now there are some colloquial forms in Attic Greek. This is for Athenians. So Attic Greek has some forms which are exceptions. They will decline perfectly regular, like sophron, but occasionally you'll find a masculine or feminine accusative that ends in omega. So the better man is ton beltio andra instead of beltiona, which is what you'd expect. Or the masculine, feminine, nominative, and accusatives will end in us. So the better men, hoi beltius andres. So be careful. This looks like an accusative plural, but it can also be a nominative plural. And then finally, the final exception is the neuter nominative and accusative plural ends in omega, just like the masculine and feminine accusative. So the better gifts, ta beltio dora. So remember these exceptions. Remember that, that most of the comparatives decline like sophron, and then go and memorize those forms.